Mr. Whitney, do we have anybody online? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Calling to order the meeting of the Buncombe County Board of Elections for Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, which may be our last meeting in this room. Excuse me while I wipe away the tears.
Well, if we're going to have a meeting next month, it's probably going to have to be in this room.
That will be agenda item 5. We will determine what happens next month, if anything. I hope everyone had a chance to take a look at the agenda. If no one has any objection, we will approve the agenda for today's meeting. And hearing no objection, that agenda is approved by acclaim. Did everyone get a chance to take a look at the minutes? Alrighty. Oh, those were just little. I just made some little things like the reference to the Election Assistance Commission. I inserted U.S. Election Assistance Commission because I want our readers to know this is not a local or state award. This is a national award. We're very proud of our staff for that. And a couple other little nitpicky things, weird things like that.
What I meant more was you can't sign this version. I have to print that version.
Fine. I guess we'll do that at our next meeting whenever that occurs. One of the difficulties about the move, one of the difficulties with the move is, printing is a little off. I tried to print something from my computer, and I'm sure it's on a printer somewhere at 35 Woodfin, somewhere. Or it's sitting in a print queue, and it'll come out next month. Right. All right, so everyone's had a chance to look at the minutes. If there's no objection, we'll approve the minutes of our last meeting on April 29th, and hearing no objection, those minutes are approved. Thank you, everybody. Next up is office updates. Director Duncan.
Thank you. I do have a few updates. So we have moved. So our main office is now at 35 Woodfin Place, and we are definitely still settling in. But we are over there now. The AK and Nate are in the lobby. All staff is moved in upstairs, and the board meeting space downstairs is still not ready. I've requested a timeline on that. So, as we were talking about earlier, we might want to continue to have the meeting here, but that's up to you. To be safe, I would keep it here.
Can't we
Okay.
just do squatters' rights?
I'm sure that they will accommodate us staying here. Absolutely, they understand. Okay. The next thing is the bittersweetness of coming to the end of term for the state board and our board as well. So last week we had the state board appointed as well as a new executive director appointed. And before I say who those names are, I just wanted to very briefly make sure that we recognize Karen's contribution. So Karen Brinson Bell was the executive director. She was executive director for 6 years. She was the first executive director that was a county director. So she really had that county perspective. She supported us in many, many ways, but I think 3 really clear ones to me that had a real impact at the county level and that supported us and took some of the lift off us was the emphasis on emergency management, which absolutely paid out during Helene. They were thinking about what we needed before we could even talk to them. Communications, all of the PR, the press releases that they put out that all the counties could use and modify and send out for themselves. The numbered memos to help us interpret things. And then also cybersecurity. She had a real focus on cybersecurity, which is something that we definitely need to be focusing on. So Karen is a wonderful person. She will find another place, and she definitely loves elections. So I'm sure that we will see her around. Just one.
I might interrupt.
Mr. Aceto?
One thing I always appreciated when I served on a board that was subordinate to some other board was the members that had some presentation of things they thought that I did was useful and that was signed by the board. And I think it would be appropriate if this board were to craft such a resolution. Always some creative person got stuck with crafting it. Usually it was the lawyer, but anyway, if there would be a, gotta be careful what you say, you know.
It was ever
You
thus.
could read that aloud to the jury someday, and it could create a problem. So, but I would suggest that, maybe our friend Jake could get together with our friend Green and put together kind of a summary of things that you think are exceptional about Karen Rinsbell for us to sign. And maybe even put it in a little frame and send it to her.
Aw.
And she can put it with all the other stuff. I always hang stuff like that in my bathroom.
And that is because you're going to see it that much more often, right?
Exactly.
You don't put it in some dark corner of the house. You put it in a frequently occupied space.
Well, I put my MSD stuff in there.
Well, that's appropriate. That's appropriate for the.
People who notices that, who doesn't, who gets the connection, it's surprising. So,
Thank you. I think that's a great idea. And
but-
how do our colleagues feel about that? Everybody on board? I'd be happy to work with Corrine, but good, she's not here. AK is going to have quite a hand in the preparation of this thing.
yeah, let's just
Just-
celebrate this person. I mean, she's
Absolutely.
really contributed a great deal.
Well, I look at the participation rates that we enjoyed in 2020 and 2024. Those were the highest ever in this county, as far as I'm aware. And I think that the state board had, and their staff had a whole lot to do with helping us achieve those numbers. So, that alone. And then I thought that their excellent judgment was demonstrated very early on in Ms. Brinson-Bell's tenure, when she hired not one but two people from Buncombe County to the state level.
By the way, that deserves a mention.
I think it does. But thank you, Mr. Aceto. We'll have that at our next meeting, wherever and whenever it is.
That's right. Now, do let the Republicans look at it if you don't mind. But we do, well, I just would like to celebrate this person.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you, Steve. So our new executive director for the state is Sam Hayes. So I want to make sure that we are welcoming him. And the state board members are Francis DeLuca, Robert Rousseau, Stacy Foreggers. He was on the board before. Jeff Carmen, and then I need help from an
Siobhan.
Irishman.
Siobhan.
Yes, Siobhan O'Duffy. She also was
Duffy
Millen. Oh, sorry, that's correct. And she also was on the state board, but since 2023, so she's a newer member. So those are our new members at the state level.
So how many have served before?
Two.
Three.
Three.
4.
Oh, that's
and
true.
both of the Democrats. So there is continuity.
Oh,
on the
both
state.
of them? Jeff had served too?
Yeah,
Okay,
Jeff
yeah.
and Siobhan both.
And as you know, that continuity is really, really useful. Elections is super complex, so it's very nice to have people who've gone through things before. So kind of segueing into what's happening for us, I wanted to, we've already gone through this before, but I wanted to keep us updated with dates. So we've got the state board's appointments have happened. For the county levels, that's still ahead of us. So on the 24th, I believe, Wednesday, Tuesday, Tuesday the 24th, I believe, is when the actual appointments for the county boards take place, to begin on Wednesday, the following day, on the 25th. There's some confusion in how it's written, but that's how I believe that is happening.
And how were you notified?
So in the past, we're notified by email, and it will have I'll get an email from the State Board of Elections with their contact information, and then we welcome them.
Okay, and since the chairman changes, will that come by email also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we'll get official notice from the State Board of Elections. The swearing-in date, and that's the bylaw date, is Tuesday, July 22nd at noon. And we have a space, I think it's 3A at the courthouse, reserved. That is a public meeting, so we'll advertise that too. So we'll make sure that all those details are there. We are also going to do the orientation, which I think we talked about before. Most of you participated in. It was very useful in getting everyone to know each other. It's happening in a kind of a different order this time because of how the swearing in is late in the month, and then we turn around and do conference, which the board members are required to attend. So we're aiming for July 1st for that.
Oh,
And that's
So
all
the
day.
orientation will be before the swearing in?
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll try to have as much as we can taking care of kind of the HR things, badges, computers, all of that.
July what?
July 1st at 9.
First.
9 to 4. All day.
Director Duncan, do you know what the timetable is for the State Board of Elections making the county appointments? The reason I ask is if it's before July 1st, that's not a problem, but if it's after July 1st, it is.
It's June 24th.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep. We tried to keep it in as order as possible.
thank
Keep
you.
it in logical order. And then the conference that the board members will need to attend is July 27th through the 29th. We've got spaces reserved for everybody, for 5 members.
Will be, transportation.
Yes, yes.
Town hall.
Mhm. We will rent a car and go together. Any questions about that? Okay. The next thing that I wanted to make sure that we mentioned is that the Griffin protest is finally complete.
Hallelujah.
The end result of that is that there's no, that the votes will remain in the count and that the voters don't take any further action. And for staff, that means, no, we're not writing letter. We had talked about needing to send out letters or updating things. That's not a part of our role anymore. I have 3 more things. I was supposed to do this at the beginning and I forgot. I wanted to congratulate Devin for 5 years of service with Buncombe County. He asked me not to congratulate him, but I'm doing it anyway.
He's a survivor.
He's a survivor. And also, today was Nate's 1-year anniversary.
Oh, my Nate.
So we have some anniversaries. And Devin will be recognized at the county's appreciation event in a month or 2. The county commissioners are doing 3 town halls this summer. So May 22nd, June 26th, and July 24th from 5:30 to 7:30, and they're at various locations, and they haven't settled on those locations yet. But we will be present at all of those. So we'll have a voter registration, we'll offer photo IDs, that kind of thing at those events.
Could you please give us those dates again?
Yes, May 22nd, June 26th, the location got changed, right? Oh. Karen thinks maybe the date got changed. Oh, Cassie from Cape is online. She says that May 22nd was canceled and moved to August 7th. I see this most supportive staff ever. Great.
So you had a July date too?
So the July was.
So June 26th and July 24th.
Okay, thank you.
August 7th.
I'm glad I asked.
7th.
And what are they going to be doing for these?
I think it's a open town hall, just trying to be available to the community for whatever questions come up. And they're kind of moving it around the county to try to be available in different areas. Okay, and then the last thing that we wanted to give an update on that I'm going to turn it over to Karen for is that along with all of these appointments, etc., what will be coming shortly after that will be the poll worker appointments. So we wanted to give an update on what we are doing there.
I feel like it's a big introduction for me to say we don't have very much at this point, but we started our nomination and appointment process with me meeting with both of the party chairs, so Rondell and Kristen, met at this office and discussed with them what the statute says, how the process works, and we worked out together a few dates. One of the dates that's not negotiable in the statute is August 19th. That's the date when the board will make appointments of the judges. But prior to that, those dates are flexible, so we worked out dates when they would submit names to me and dates when they might expect their precinct chairs to have their list of nominations ready. Then we had precinct chair trainings in April. We held 3 of them over at 200 College Street. We had pretty good attendance. 85 people came in total. That was a little bit down from 2023. We had 100 in 2023. But we had representation from both parties. We had quite a few other people that are in the room today came to the training sessions. We talked about the process. We talked about how to recruit people, things to emphasize like good computer skills, impartiality, and we also talked about training, how long that takes, when it takes place, background checks and hiring process done through a third-party employment agency, just to make everybody aware that they would have to do that. And then finally, what the actual day looks like if you're going to be a chief judge or a party judge or an assistant. We went through those trainings, questions and answers at the end of that, and then the precinct chairs now are off, and they have the summer to do their recruiting. So this is their time now to be reaching out to the people that have worked in the past, people that are brand new, get names, get email and phone numbers, and submit them to the party chairs. And then the party chairs at the end of summer will give me that slate of people. I will look for party judges. It's pretty straightforward because a Democrat can only be a Democratic Party judge and a Republican can only be a Republican Party judge. Chief judge, we can have nominations from both parties. So at that point, we'll be looking at experience. We'll be looking to see if we've got somebody who at least has worked in the precinct as an assistant or as a party judge in the past, if possible. And then that slate of judges will be given to the new board on August the 19th, and that board will then make their decisions about who to appoint. So at this point, I don't have any names from the precinct chairs. Obviously, they just started. The trainings were only last month, and I wouldn't expect anybody to be giving me any names until the end of summer. They do all have my email address. I have had quite a few questions come from precinct chairs. They just want to be reminded of things. How much does a chief judge get paid? Can spouses work in the same precinct together? Those kinds of questions. So throughout the summer, I'm sure things will come up. But until the end of summer, it remains a mystery whose name will be coming up.
Ms. Ray, I'm curious. You had about 85 attendees at the 3 trainings. Did you see any attrition? Did people, when they heard what the task entailed, decide, well, I really can't do that?
I did have people that came up afterwards that said it was a lot more than they thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
Yes, they were
yeah.
quite surprised at how much is involved in the process. So, but of course, we had people that have done it time after time
Oh,
after
yeah.
time, and so they were very relaxed about it. They've been through it. They know what it looks like.
We're very grateful for those experienced hands. But yeah, it is a big job. And I can see how folks might be surprised. Long hours.
Have we, as election services, provided them the 2 chairs with names of people that we have used before?
Yes, they both party chairs got the full list of people that worked. So what I did was I looked at 2023, who was appointed by the board, and then I put in a spreadsheet whether that person ended up working the municipal, the primary, or the general. Some worked all 3, some didn't work at all. I put comments in. If we couldn't reach them by email or phone, I put that in there. If somebody said, I don't want to do this, I wish I'd never put my name, I put that in the comments.
Yeah.
So don't call these people. And then I printed out the names of all the people who were Republican, all the people who were Democrats, and then a separate list of unaffiliated, gave that to both parties, and said, these are the people that have worked.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
if you want to reach out to them again,
good.
you've got all their contact information. So
Since we have new party chairs on both sides, I think that's a good
yeah,
idea.
that's right.
Mr. Quinn,
Yeah, Mr. Aceto.
as Ray, just in the past, have we had any participation from people who were members of the other registered parties, not Republican or Democrat, that appeared as such? That's how they.
I've had some poll workers who were Libertarian and Green Party. I don't know that I've ever had a precinct chair come to
Okay,
me.
we're not at that point, though, are we?
Right.
We're just working on treating
Yeah.
chair. Okay, just simply, just a word spoken into the ether here that if we have the opportunity to at least touch base with those party leaders if they are identified. I don't know,
I think we just have one now. It's Libertarians.
and just to
Have
make
the
certain
others
that
fallen away?
that they get a welcome to the process.
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you. Sounds,
Okay. Sure.
it's hurry up and wait.
I
Ms.
haven't
Moore, did
actually
you have
read
it? Oh, okay, good, thank you. In your absence, you were given an assignment, but we'll talk about that after the meeting. You
Stay away.
think I'm kidding, but I'm not.
No, I don't think.
No, that's okay. All righty. Moving right along. Oh, next is item 4, discussion of retention of legal counsel. There should be a copy of a letter that I received in front of all of you. I received it from an attorney named Colin Shive at Tharrington Smith. And this is the law firm that helped us back in 2019 when there were legal questions about the Asheville municipal election. They were very helpful. And as we consider engaging Buncombe County in the negotiation of a new memorandum of understanding, it probably makes sense for us to have legal help. And in speaking with Mr. Shive, I have learned that both he and his firm have worked on assorted memoranda of understanding and such things with public bodies. And, I said I'd get this information for the board. There's probably a really good chance that we don't want to act on this until there's a new board seated. But I did want to take advantage of the opportunity to get some information and keep moving this ahead. I don't want to get stuck in the mud on this. I want to keep it moving ahead so that we are ready to work on a new MOU and make sure that we've done everything we can to help the next board be ready to take this on. Anyone have any questions or comments about this?
Yeah, Mr. Quinn.
Mr. Aceto?
I'm agnostic about this,
Sure.
but I just in looking at this, I see that they have limited the scope of the proposed. Somebody has limited the scope of the proposed engagement to the preparation of the memorandum of understanding, and I'm agnostic about that. That doesn't bother me, except that it is. I'm encouraged to see that we're thinking through the scope of the engagement. What all does it include? I was interested to see if they would define it more broadly, but apparently they have not. And I don't know whether they're picking up on something that came from our side or from their side. But it wouldn't hurt my feelings if you ended up with an engagement letter that's limited to this one task. But just in doing so, just observation that it could have been more of a broad representation. And should it be? I don't feel strongly about it either way. But just put a bookmark by that.
Okay. Would you be able to suggest any language that might broaden this in a constructive way?
I would suggest that you put the question to them
Okay.
and let them ask you, well, what is your idea about the scope of the representation? And and just get a kind of dialogue going about that. It's kind of like going to a restaurant and they hand you the menu and then you say, well, what do you recommend? It's kind of like that. If nothing else, it would be an interesting conversation. And it might include what do other similar bodies do when they decide the scope of representation. What's been their experience about that? Should it be a sharper pencil or should it be like a big fat Sharpie? What should it look like? And like I say, I would want to know what they thought about that. And then you can run that against. As we've talked about before, I think it's important to go into this, approach this whole question and be ready to take control of the objectives and to suggest them to the lawyer. And certainly that's an iterative process, but this board ought to go into that meeting with that lawyer with an idea about what our objectives are for example, for that board, for that MOU, and what should be in there. And start that iterative process. And that begins with the engagement letter. What is the scope of this thing? And there's not some set of rules for this somewhere. You just got to do some intellectual heavy lifting here about what you think it ought to look like. But part of their job is to help you focus on that,
Well,
because they bring experience of
Mr.
having engaged people in similar. That's why you hired somebody who not their first rodeo.
But this is also why we have you on our board. Would you be available to join me in a phone call with Mr. Shive?
I
to
would
engage
enjoy
in
that
this?
very much. I just want to hear what they have to say. If I can just stay underneath my rock and not crawl out and just listen, that would be interesting. I
don't
wonder
want
how
you to
they do
just
this.
listen, my friend.
Because
You've got way too much to offer.
But that's what I did for, I would sit down with people when I first met with them and say, what do you want to accomplish? And it was always interesting to hear what came out of their mouth, and just the fact that some people were just shocked by the question. And I never had anybody push back on it. It seemed like they enjoyed the conversation that followed. But, to lead off with, what do you want to accomplish?
I just had a couple of the kind of nuts and bolts suggestions for the letter.
Sure.
This is sort of a bare bones retainer agreement, so I suspect that they probably sent this to you with anticipation that you would come back with some questions.
Right.
So I forget, did we say $20,000 or $25,000 for the kitty for attorney's fees?
We said 20.
20?
I honestly don't know where that is in the process. But I'm not going to worry about that. The money can be found. Whenever we've needed money in the past, we've been able to find it.
I would talk to him about what happens if that kitty is exhausted and there's still some work to be done, how that would be handled by the firm or the Board of Elections. The other thing is, he mentions in there if there's other attorneys and paralegals at our firm may be called on to assist if needed. You might want to ask him what those people would charge, because paralegals can charge more than you might think. And I would think you would want to make sure that any attorney time is not billed for more than his time and for a rate that's considerably less. I thought his rate was very reasonable.
Yeah.
And I get the idea he probably gave a cut rate considering he's from Raleigh. The other thing is travel time. I would think that he's probably going to make at least one trip over here, maybe more. So you want to ask him, how is travel time charged? Does he charge half of his hourly rate? He probably won't charge nothing. And then there's expenses like mileage. How much does he charge for mileage? Photocopying costs, which can run to be pretty expensive. Document retrieval probably wouldn't be too much, but you would also want to ask him if they charge for legal research cost, because some firms probably use that just as overhead. Other firms probably charge it to the client.
Do people still make photocopies?
I do. I think they still do. We still have some here. But, you know, they can charge 25 cents a copy, and that can add up. So you would want to talk about things like that.
Thank you. No, I enjoy having attorneys on this panel. They offer some wonderful perspective. Ms. Stein?
Not being an attorney, I'll just talk from the
Oh,
layperson.
even better. I love the three amateur attorneys here, too.
So, I certainly understand what Mr. Aceto's talking about with regard to what does the scope of the work that might be included in such an agreement. There's also part of me that thinks there's a value in keeping it specifically for the MOU work to begin with, and that we see how we get along, what our relationship is, how it gets developed, before we potentially broaden such an agreement. We can always do another agreement. And so I was thinking about my husband, who we can hardly do anything at our house like landscaping or repairs, because he's afraid that whoever we hire is going to do an awful job. So we have to do one little job first and test them out and try it out. So in some ways, this is an opportunity for us to learn about this company and about this attorney and the paralegals and the other folks that are part of this. So I just wanted to weigh in on that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your perspective.
Yeah, Mr. Quinn, just I want to emphasize that when I talk about expectations and goals of the representation, it's really internal for us. It's not necessarily that it's going to ever make it into any kind of a written agreement. In fact, most of it shouldn't. But because of course it's all potential to become public record. But that you all walk into this with the idea that you've got expectations. I mean, they're group, they're individual, and that you're way ahead of that and thinking about what is it that we ought to be accomplishing here. Some of that will make it into writing, but most of it won't. It'll just be what you carry into the room with you.
Understood. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments about that? Ms. Brady?
Well, yeah. I understand both positions, but if we're considering another MOU with the county and we keep it narrow just to that, and there's any pushback from the county, then do we have any idea of whether this attorney is actually going to then represent us if we wanted them to? If we have a broader scope, we don't have to use it. It's just available. We've said, okay, we also want May. And I don't know whether you put that into writing or not.
You can always tell an attorney during the course of representation, we want you to do this, we don't want you to do that. You don't have to sort of have a bullet point item of you do this, you do this, you do this, and then stop. I mean, you can always say, look, we don't want that done if you're worried about attorney's fees, and I'm sure you will be at some point. I mean,
No,
you don't
I'm-
want to make it so narrow that he has to call up and say, do I have authority to do this?
That's right.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
more
it's-
what I meant. you
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
If we pin it down to just the MOU, then we might get a document and, okay, we're done. And,
Okay, thinking out loud here.
yeah,
What I'd like to do is call up Mr. Shive and have Mr. Aceto
yes.
actively participate in the phone call. And then ask Mr. Shive to redraft this letter with incorporating the information that we discuss in that phone conversation, and then bring that letter back to this board at our next meeting.
And it really is about planning to plan, so, it may not change at all.
Yeah.
I just want to have that conversation, just out of curiosity. And you do have another lawyer sitting here. He's not a potted plant. He's actually rather good at this stuff. So, we may want to drag him in there too.
I won't be here after June 25th, so I think it's probably better to have somebody who will be, since my days are limited.
I mean, I used to hire him. I never got a memorandum of understanding out of him.
No, seriously, I think this guy's obviously a very talented guy and does a lot of government work from the website. So, I'm sure he'll be accommodating and follow your directions as to what you do and what you don't do.
Okay.
Or what you want done and what you don't want done. I mean, it's kind of, I think you may be making a mountain out of a molehill,
Yeah.
trying to get to,
Oh, no, I mean, look, I had questions when I saw this thing. And I almost called him up and said, hey, if nothing else, put page 2 on page 2. But I thought, Jake, don't burn any goodwill on that nonsense. Talk to the board. You've got to have a more substantive conversation with this gentleman. And so that's why I've waited, unfortunately, I got this thing when I got home after our last meeting. I mean, I wish I had had it here 2 weeks ago. And it was waiting for me when I got home. I said, well, okay, I'll let you know in a couple of weeks. And so now it's time to follow up with him. And now, instead of just nitpicking on some format stuff, I had the question about paralegals because we had a paralegal involved 6 years ago when we worked on this thing. And I saw that the rate wasn't in there. But no, thank you for
Yeah.
your perspective and your input on this. We'll have a more fruitful conversation. All right, Steve, you're laughing
All
way
right,
down
I'm
there,
laughing because
buddy.
you
I
just
got-
revealed our age. Because, if you don't print a letter out, you have no idea where stuff is, right? And I'm looking at this signature, and it's not a real signature. It's like a little thing they copied. So this man never had. You would shock him if you said, "Put page 2 on page 2."
He never saw it.
He never saw it. He never even thought about it.
Yeah, right you are. I hadn't even noticed the auto pen. Actually, it's not auto pen, it's a photocopy pen.
Yeah, it's like,
Okay, fair
I mean, I
enough.
never-
But, Mr. Cito, I'll be in touch to see if we can schedule a meeting with this gentleman. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for the discussion, I appreciate it. Director Duncan, I'm sorry, nobody ever put the mirror here, so I could see if you had something to say, and I thought, at this point, maybe you did.
I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure that so this is well, first, I think this is a good idea for the board. I think that it's just something that happens with any entity that's not a county entity. Relying on the county attorney won't work all the time. And we have had a great relationship with Kurt. And I think at some point when it's chosen, it would be great to make sure that they get introduced to each other. This attorney one that helped us in the past?
Correct. The
Okay.
2019 Nashville City Council.
City Council, okay.
At large versus districts.
And do we know that, how that went? I
Yeah.
don't think, was anyone on the board? You were.
I can tell everyone that there was a question and we couldn't get an answer from the State Board of Elections on whether these Asheville City Council elections should be conducted on an at-large basis or a district basis. That's because the General Assembly passed a law that converted it to district. And then after that, the Asheville City Council passed a law that converted it back to at-large. And so there was a question, well, does the
Which one?
General Assembly take some precedence over the City Council? But the City Council passed the most recent legislation on this. Which one is in effect? And we surprisingly, could not get a definitive answer from either the State Board of Elections or the county attorney. And so we did turn to this outside law firm, Darrington Smith,
What was the answer?
and they said, yes, the most recent law is the law that is in effect. And so in this case, it would be an at-large election for Asheville City Council.
I'm just curious, when he responded, I mean, he sent a opinion letter, right,
That is correct.
with legal research and all that sort of thing. It just wasn't some conversation. Okay.
Opinion letter. So, it gave us summarized the research that they did, discussed the law, and then provided their findings, and then outlined the litigation risk that might exist. And the board, reviewed this opinion and said, okay, this makes sense. And Asheville City Council went ahead and had an at-large election, and that election was held in 2020, and they have subsequently had them in 22 and 24, and there has been no controversy, no issue, no pushback. And frankly, I've been surprised that there hasn't been any action in the General Assembly to try to convert them back to districts. But the thing is, if you introduce legislation like that, someone might want to put an amendment on it, like converting them to partisan elections or changing them to odd-numbered years. Please do that. And maybe no one wants to take that risk of introducing legislation that might open Pandora's box. I don't know the reason, but I've actually been surprised that we haven't seen the issue arise again.
I'm just curious, this really, from what you said earlier, it doesn't seem to be a problem, but the money that's spent on outside attorneys has to come from the county, I guess, $20,000 or $25,000, whatever it was, isn't much money, but you may be taking an adverse position to what the county's position is. Could there be an issue about getting more money if push came to shove?
Well, the law
guess that-
says
I
that
guess-
that the county has to fund our operation. And I would suspect that would mean all of the operation, and that the county is in a position to do line item vetoes on, if we've got 20,000 in our budget for contingent legal expenses, and then we try to access it, I'd be frankly surprised if the county would try to thwart that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, if push ever came to shove, the county may not be so wild about funding litigation against itself. But that's only if push came to shove.
Yeah, and one of the things that we want to accomplish with the MOU is avoiding pushing and shoving. And right now, there's been a little bit of that on this space stuff. And I think we want to just use a higher level approach. Mr. Cito?
You know, they were very specific about that. They said that this doesn't include litigation.
Right, right.
It doesn't preclude it, but it doesn't include it.
Right.
I mean, if it says you want to have some litigation help, then start over with a new letter.
And I'm guessing that would be because Mr. Shive might not be one of their litigators. And I'm guessing that the hourly rate is a bit higher for litigators.
That would probably be a much more extensive letter, too.
Yeah.
It's just,
Okay, so the action plan on this one is a phone call to the attorney and to come back to this board and report what we have learned. All righty.
Can I just make a comment on the
Please.
the relationship? So, so I've said this many times. The county is very supportive of us. We do have a unique relationship. There are other departments that aren't really departments that have their own attorneys. So the county is used to that, and the county funds those. And as Jake said, if something is required by this department that the county cannot provide, which, you know, if Kurt says, I'm sorry, I can't represent you there, the state says, I'm sorry, I can't represent you there, we have to hire an attorney and they have to fund it. So we hope that we don't have to go there, and we very, very rarely have had to. And I think that this, again, is a very good use of outside legal counsel to help keep our good relationship with the county, and also I'm very I feel the same way that Sally does. And, you know, that a good relationship is really important here. So I think it's a good opportunity to make that.
Thanks, everybody. The next item on the agenda is next meeting date. Pull out your calendars. I would suggest that the June meeting would be the last meeting of this board.
And I guess it would have to be before June 24th.
right,
Yes.
so,
We suggest the 10th or the 17th.
I would suggest the 17th.
fine with me.
I'll be at Carolina Beach on the 10th.
Do we want to put it to where, if we wanted to follow up with anything on the phone call you guys have, we would have time to do another one briefly to consider whatever? I don't know if there would be any need for that, but
Well, I'm thinking if we actually want to take action with respect to engaging this firm, we're really better off waiting until the new board is seated,
Yeah,
because that's the
true.
board that's going to have to work with them.
yeah, that's true.
But I want to get as much done before that board is impaneled so that they don't have to deal with the stuff we're dealing with right now. And we'll have an engagement letter that we like and will make sense to everybody. And so I'm guessing that in July, this will be one of the first topics that the new board's going to tackle. It being the odd-numbered year and a real opportunity to focus on our relation with the county and the facilities questions before we get into the deep water of 2026. So,
Date again that you're thinking about?
17th.
the 17th,
I took a brief excursion there. Okay. 17th. Yeah, that's good. Time do you like?
3:30, same? Can everyone do 3:30 on the 17th? Lovely.
And here?
TBD. Yeah, you think? Right here?
You can let us know.
I think we you know, for now, we say here, I doubt that it
Okay.
will be ready.
Okay, we're going to plan it for 59 Woodfin Place for the old board. And when we meet in July, the new board will meet at 35 Woodfin. I think. What do I know?
Typically, the July meeting will be at the courthouse
It's true.
with the swearing.
What,
It's a swearing in.
It's
A little different.
It is, yes.
this is all happening out of order, you notice.
The orientation,
Yeah,
swearing
yeah,
in, orientation.
I'm confused.
Just think about the orientation getting you ready to swear, so you know what you're swearing to.
So you have time to back out.
Yep.
So we'll really
you.
have two meetings.
Thank you for that option.
No, no.
The orientation is really not a meeting, even though we're all there together.
It's training.
No,
no action
action is
items.
being taken. Got it. Okay.
All right, next meeting on the 17th. Can't believe it. I've done this for so many times, and I still don't get it right. Welcome, guests. I'm really glad you came today. Even though I'm waiting 55 minutes to let you know. And I appreciate our virtual participants as well. I know that there were 3 at the top of the meeting. There might be more now, or they might have left. I don't know. But thank you for coming, and thank you for supporting the Board of Elections. Your presence means a lot to us. Hey, Cheryl.
To what extent, if any, is the subsequent board obligated to follow through on anything that this board has started?
I can't think of anything that this board has started that,
Well, this being one example.
Yeah, like-
This is kind of
well,
mid-year.
the memorandum of understanding, it could be that the next board says, you know what, I just read this memorandum of understanding you did a few years ago. I like it just fine, don't want to change it. That may be, I don't know. There's nothing that we can do that is going to oblige a new board to do what we have done. And that will be one of the interesting things of the coming months. Find out, see what happens.
Right.
So y'all come back now, you hear?
Exactly. Claim your seat.
Did anyone have any questions or comments for the board, aside from Cheryl's? Again, thank you so much for coming. One of the reasons that elections work so well in this county is because the public is engaged. You all care, and that makes a huge difference. We see participation levels getting better and better and better all the time. I really do appreciate that. And I love the idea of reaching out to the other parties that are not one of the top 2 to see if we can get even more participation in this process, which this process is for everybody. It's not for 2 parties. It's for everybody. It's for the voters. So thanks a lot for coming and supporting us. We do appreciate it.
I just had one question, just
Mr.
for my own
Schultz.
information. I know that the state auditor had the authority to put into the executive director position whoever he wanted to. My understanding is that goes for the general counsel too. So Paul Cox is not the general counsel anymore. Has he been replaced?
I don't know how that works. I don't know. But no, not that we know of now. We in fact have a huddle even tomorrow. So our state meeting, and we might learn more about
Yep. No doubt.
how that, because each executive director might run things differently, so that might not be how we communicate. But we don't know that yet. We'll learn that as he gets his feet under him.
Fair enough. Is there any more business to come before this board today? And hearing none, thank you, everybody. The meeting's adjourned at 4:28. That was a fast meeting.
Thank